Coach Weaver here again, helping you become a better leader. Unfortunately, there's not just one thing that makes you successful as an employee, a leader, or a boss. But over the next few videos, we're going to be doing kind of a series that focuses on best practices that have been helping my clients improve their productivity, their time management, and their leadership over the years. And so today, we're going to start off this series and jump right in with number one. I get managers and business owners coming to me all the time complaining about how they don't like their jobs. Their main complaint oftentimes is that they spend their time having to correct employees, put out fires, and managing problems over and over again. As one recently said, I didn't sign up to be a babysitter, but I feel like that's exactly what I do every day, is that I'm just a babysitter. So, what's going wrong? What are they doing wrong? The biggest problem that I see a lot is that we reinvent the wheel over and over because we don't have a process to make it easier. A little background, I love motorcycles and I have motorcycles. But the first time I ever changed the back tire of one of my motorcycles, it was hell. There were tools flying around the garage and swearing. I got it done, and I managed to learn a lot in the process. And back in those days, decades ago, there wasn't the internet. But after I did it, I realized that I could go to the library and get a book that detailed the process and even had pictures of, how to prop up the motorcycle, which piece to take off first, how to align the wheel to put it back on. Everything was right there. Between what I learned not to do and then the outline process, the next time I was able to change a tire without swearing and throwing things. But a lot of times we don't have those processes in place. Processes and instructions make a huge difference. You probably wouldn't want to try to put together a complex child's toy for one of your children on Christmas Eve without written instructions. Because you want to have a good Christmas. You don't want to be miserable come Christmas. But we as employers and bosses, we expect employees to do more complex things than a child's toy, and even more important things without detailed instructions a lot of times. There's a saying that 90 to 95% of customer issues, employee performance issues, and business problems are predictable and even routine. Think about it. When was the last time you faced a problem at work that you never faced anything like it before? Not necessarily with that same customer or that same employee, but the same general problem. A discrepancy in paperwork, an employee late for work, a customer complaining about a service or a bill. Most of these problems are history repeating themselves. They're just slightly different examples of the same problem that has happened time and time before. So this best practice number one is basically to not have to reinvent the wheel, but to do what's called manage by exception. This is a common business term and well known in business writing, but not used nearly enough. And so there's three main components or three main things that we have to do to really manage by exception. If 90% of problems are predictable, then what we need to do, first of all, is we need to create a process for those reoccurring events. We need to tell employees exactly how they should be doing it, and if possible, step by step. I know this seems like a lot of work, especially up front, but if you only have to really explain it thoroughly to an employee or on paper once and not have to deal with the same issue weekly for the next 4 or 5 years, trust me, you will save lots of time and, more importantly, lots of headaches. So as we develop those processes, we put things in place for all of those things that are not exceptions. The routine discrepancy in paperwork, the routine customer issues that might come up, or how to bill a certain thing, whatever it might be. We have those processes. And the second step is once those processes are in place, we have to reinforce the process. I remember because I had an annoying employee that did sales for me. And he would come to me all the time and turn a 2-minute conversation into an hour or more conversation. And it was very time consuming and it was annoying, quite frankly. Well, one time he came to me and he wanted to discuss about putting in for some time off. But I was in the process of something, and because we had a process and, in essence, a policy that dealt with who could put in time off, what the circumstances were required, and the process to make that request, I was relieved that I didn't have to stop doing what I was doing, and I could just tell him to go and follow the process. And it was a great win for me for several reasons. One, I didn't have to feel guilty about whether or not to give him the time off or not, because the process told him whether he could expect to have it approved or not. Second, I was able to complete the project that I was doing and not having to stop and deal with an hour conversation that was mostly about non-work related. And third, I was able to reinforce the process and the fact that we, as a company, had the processes in place and that we followed the processes, not only for something like time off, but for handling issues in the field or with customers or other things. And that the employee could know that, hey, if he had a question, first thing he should be doing is making sure he knows what the policy is and following that policy wherever possible, which he eventually did and saved me a lot of time and headache, as well as other employees, because we had those things as a system, as a part of what the company was doing. The last thing is, once those 90 to 95% of things are done, then we need to focus our time and attention on the 5 or 10% of events that are not predictable. The things that typically require more skill, more problem solving, or even more finesse to work through them. Whether they are major customer concern issues that have never happened before, employee concerns where maybe we've never had a situation like that happen before, or even large business problems that are more projects and things that we need to spend time and really resolve. But it gives us the time to do those things because we're focusing on managing by exception of things that aren't predictable and for things that we don't have a system, a policy, a process for. That's going to give us the time and energy that we need to improve our leadership and really grow the business in the way that we want to. Until next time, best success.